Hi, this is John Kim from GRC Handcrafted Whips. I haven't posted much lately, mostly because I've been incapacitated. I had a total ankle replacement done on Black Friday. I am finally in a walking boot, and I can actually walk now. I was on crutches and total non-weight bearing for some time, and then for 2 weeks that was actually. And then after that, I got into the walking boot, but even then I still couldn't put enough weight on it just to walk around. It's only in the last 5 days or so that I've been able to just walk without crutches or even using a cane. So I've been incapacitated, I've been out of the loop and not online much either to post anything, but I thought I'd make a short video here today. So I received another wholesale order for 8 whips to be made, and they're all 6-foot bull whips. And to simplify my life, I tend to do these very much factory style. So I will do the cores, then I'll do the first bellies, then I'll do the second bellies, then I'll do the overlays, etc. In order to make it easier with the strands, what I do is I color code things when I cut them. All you whip makers know that you try to conserve material by cutting the strands to particular lengths. This bag is a collection of assorted strands, but they're all color-coded. So what I've done is my 2 longest strands are in this kind of a pink polka-dotted color, and then my next longest strand is in this, I don't know what to call this, dark gray, greenish. My shorter strands are in this very light gray. So what I can do now is I can just grab out of that bag, all these strands have been cut for all 8 whips already. I can just grab out of that bag the 4 strands that I need for the first belly. So I've got my 2 longer strands, my medium strand, and my short strand here. When I do my square starts, if it's something that's not going to be visible, I like to mark the strands with a Sharpie. I have a silver Sharpie and I have a black Sharpie that I'll use depending on the color of the strands. So I've got these ones marked for the center of the strands, so I know where to do my square start. So I'm going to lower the camera a little bit down to my vise, and I'll show you how I get these things going. Alright, so first I'm going to do a square start on this. What I'll do is I'll just use my fingers to hold these a little bit down from the center marks that I've made. It doesn't have to be exact, so if one end of the strand is a little longer than the other, it won't matter, because we tend to I tend to drop strands from one side or the other, not at the same time, but alternating the left-right to try to get a better taper out of the whip. So what I'll do is I'll take the first strand that I've got, I go over, under, over, and then I'll hold it over here with my thumb. And then I'll take the next strand, I go over, under, and then I hold it with my thumb, and then I go over and hold it with a thumb. So now I've done everything except for this last strand. And this last strand actually is going to have to come around to the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach through here, separating that single strand out of here again, and I'm going to pinch the other side between my thumb and first finger. And then I'll take that last strand that needs to be stuck in here, and I'm going to go over. It's going to be hard to see in the camera here, but I'm going to go over, under, and that will give me my square start. I'll try to hold that there so you can see that. Alright, this hole back here is where the rod for my core is going to go. So I place that over the top, and then I'm just going to kind of cinch things down kind of tight, or firm at least. And as I'm doing this, I'm trying to kind of keep an eye on those silver marks that I've made on the strands, so that I end up with the approximate center of all these right at the square start. Alright, and then just like we always do when we're doing our braiding, we take a look at what's here in front. And I can see that this one is coming over the top on the bottom right here. So I know that the next strand I have to take is on this side. And now I'm just going to braid for a while. Oh, I'm sorry. One additional thing I'm going to do is after I pull one strand from my initial square start. I now have 2 strands covered in the back, and from there on, since I'm just doing a solid handle here, whatever I can do to speed up the process of braiding this section is going to save me a little bit of time, save me a little bit of money. So I'm going to be doing over under 2 and pulling 2 at a time as I do this also. So that way I will get through this handle section a little bit quicker. So I'm going to pull 2 at a time, and I'm going to do this about 4 times. Then I'm going to go back and snug them down really good, and also make sure that I'm flush with the end of my handle core here. I'm actually going to bring the braid up above the level of that handle rod, pull things down tight. And then we'll just go ahead and keep braiding. All right, so I'm down to about the last inch or so of my steel rod. It's at this point that I'm going to switch to a single strand pulled under 2 over 2, basically switching into the herringbone. And I'm not going to do anything fancy about trying to switch into the herringbone nicely, because it's never going to be seen, and it's not going to make any difference for the performance of the whip. Now, what used to be my center feeling for my braid when I was doing the 2 over under is right in the center of the rod, straight up for me right now. But as soon as I switch to the herringbone, it's going to shift either to the left or to the right, depending on which side I started with. It shifted a little bit to the left on me, so I'm going to adjust my position so that my cross is more in the center, the top of what I'm braiding here. And right now I am pulling this pretty much as hard as I can for the first belly. There's really no danger of over tightening this. All right, so I'm getting to the point where the inner core that I've braided over, which was filled with BBs, is kind of coming to an end. The end of the BBs is here, and then I just got some empty material here running out. So because of the lack of the BBs in here, there's going to be a considerable drop in the thickness of the core. So this is the point where I want to drop my first strand into the core, and because my left side strand is shorter than my right side strand, the left is the one that is going to get dropped into the core. I can see the way things are lining up right now that I should be able to do my braiding down to this point just in time to drop that strand. So I'm just going to pull a few more strands, and now I have that tan strand on top. This time I'm going to pull it, and it's going to drop into the core. So I'm just going to braid over it one more from the left hand side. All right, and now that strand I'm going to tuck it around behind. I don't really like pulling dropped strands onto the top, because now when I pull it tight, they tend to get very crooked and very noticeable. In the belly, it doesn't matter, but it's just out of habit that I do that. So now you can see I've got 3 strands on the left, 4 strands on the right. I've got my core, and then I've got the strand that I dropped into the core. One of the things I used to do when I was still newer to making whips is I found it easy to get confused about which strands were in the core and which strands were my part of my braid. So what I would do is I would use a small clip like this, something like this, and I would take that strand that I had dropped and I would either just put that clip on there, down there dangling, or sometimes I would clip it to the actual core as well, so that I wouldn't lose track of the fact that that's the one that's in the core and I shouldn't be trying to pull it. You know, for any new whip makers, you find that you pull that core strand back out and start braiding with it. That's an option or an idea for not making that mistake. Now, as I reach the end of this core, which is empty, again, I'm going to be thinking about dropping another strand. As you can see, this core that I'm using is considerably heavier, wider material than the 550 cord or the 650 cord. So again, once it disappears, once it ends, there's going to be a jump in the thickness of that core that I'm trying to cover. So now we're getting ready to drop that tan on the right side. Also, about now, I've braided over this strand that I dropped earlier. Is this guy right here. I've braided down over it a couple, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. So now's a good time to think about trying to snug that down. And it moved a little bit. Don't know if you noticed it, but it did. So that pulled it down tight. One of the common problems for making whips, new whip makers, is that whips, I don't know if I want to say they get kinks, but they get soft spots where you just didn't pull the strand tight enough, maybe. And that happens a lot with these core strands as you're dropping them, the strands as you drop them into the core. If you forget to pull them tight afterwards, that's going to give you a limp spot in the whip. All right, so I am just about ready to drop that other tan strand over here on the right hand side. You can see I'm right at the end of my core. This also, I've got a fuse on this. This might have been the very beginning or maybe the very end of the material that I got from the supplier. And that hard piece there, I don't like having that stuck in the core, so I'm going to cut that off. And now that tan strand is right at the top of the core that I had before, and we're going to drop it. So just braid over it one more time. All right, so I got one more, and I'm going to take that around to the back again and just continue on braiding. All right, so that first strand that I dropped into the core was way up here. The core, main core was right about here where it ended. I want to go past that about 1 inch or so for that initial drop. So I'm going to just reach in here with my scissors. I'm going to snip that off. All right, and then this other strand that I just dropped right here was the last time it was showed up in the belly. I want to go maybe 1 inch or so past this strand that I just trimmed. I'm going to get that snug down before I continue braiding. Once I get down to just 6 strands that I'm braiding, I'm going to only drop into the core when there's nothing else there. Otherwise, I feel like I get too much gap in between the strands. So the next two strands that need to be dropped are these guys. And I can see again the one on the left-hand side happens to be the shorter one. That's just totally random from how I did my square start. Sometimes it's on the right side, sometimes it's on the left. All right, so that strand is on the top now. It's ready to be dropped. I'm going to drop it from the back. I don't generally drop from the back when I'm doing overlays because I feel like it's very, very noticeable doing the drops from the back. But for the belly, it doesn't matter because nobody's going to see it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this around behind, but I'm not going to braid it through my strands on the right-hand side. And then I'm going to pull another strand from the left side, and I'm going to braid that just like I normally would. All right, I'm now braiding 5 strands, and I'm under 2 on the right side, but I'm only under 1 on the left side. So I'm going to braid down about an inch or so from where I dropped that, and then I'm going to snug it down tight, give it maybe an inch, and snip it off. So give it a tug and give it about an inch or so. All right, so here I am at the end of what I've got for a core. This is the next strand that I need to drop. Unfortunately, it's not on top yet. So I'm going to, actually I think I'm going to back up because I don't really want an empty spot in the core. All right, so instead of pulling that around and sticking it into the braid, there you go, I'm going to pull that to the back just like I did that other drop from the back, and then I'm going to pull this strand from the right again and continue braiding. So I do have a little bit of a double strand here in the core, but that's better than having no strand in the core and then going back to having some strand in the core. When you're down to these last few strands, when you go to pull them tight, snug them down, quite often there isn't much visible motion. So right up here, this is the strand that I just dropped, the strand that's hanging out down here. All right, when I give this a pull, you might see this move up here a little bit, but probably not. I didn't see it move. All right, I'm going to give it about an inch. Again, that's just kind of to help anchor it into the core so it doesn't go anywhere. I do, by the way, have my strand lengths very well calculated, I guess, so that I don't really need to worry too much about measuring. All right, did I braid this to drop at 19 inches? Did I drop this at 25 inches? I really don't need to worry about that. It all kind of just works off of that core length. And so that strand ended about here. I'm going to braid past that about 1 inch with these remaining strands, and then I'm just going to tie it off. So I bring this one around here last time, and I'm just going to flip it over and pull that knot tight. All right, and there is a belly. You can see, all right, here are the other ones that I've been working on. You can see they're not all the same pattern, but it doesn't matter. It all works out in the end.